Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday night. I don't know the date or the time. I'm on the East Coast, and my new friend, Shaheen Samadi, is in the Valley, Pacific Coast.
What's up?
I stumbled across Shaheen through a series of mutual diaspora Iranian voices over the past 48 hours, trying to figure out exactly how I was to be interpreting this moment in time, and was really moved with a quick piece that he posted on Instagram, which we're going to roll. But Jay, confirming you're ready for that. But one of the bits and some of the language that Shaheen used in this Instagram post was beyond the context of what's happening in Iran, what's happening with women in Iran, what's happening with like artistic rebellion to outdated systems in Iran. But he admitted to being lonely. And Shaheen, you might not know this, but on Land of Anne, we have a series of television, we have a series of shows. One of them is about boys and men. And we are constantly trying to understand how more men, broadly speaking, might be willing to say things like, it's really lonely right now, or I feel alone, or I feel scared. And so, in the way that you have presented where your head and your heart is right now, and before we jump into it, which I know you'll all be floored by, I just want to also ask you to watch how he models being his most human and vulnerable self. Jay, do you mind showing the clip?
People on earth. And the reason for that is because nobody understands us. On one hand, the people who are living inside of Iran don't know if they are next, if it's their apartment buildings that are going to collapse on top of them. And on the other hand, you have people, they are being repressed and oppressed by the government we call the Islamic Republic. The problem is, on one hand, you have Iranians who are literally like dying right now, and they're scared shitless, understandably so. On the other hand, you have people who are all of a sudden supporting the Islamic Republic, thinking that they are friends to the Iranian people. And that to me is fucking insane. Like, it's really interesting because all of a sudden I'm seeing on these takes on TikTok where all of a sudden people care about Iran now. Why? That's interesting. All of a sudden people care about Iranian people dying. That's fascinating, dog. Because where were you in 2022 when a woman was killed for wearing her hijab improperly? When a 16-year-old girl was beaten and raped to death and then her body thrown off a building? Where were you guys then? It's interesting, really interesting. Oh, you care about Iranians. Okay. Listen, I don't condone these Israeli strikes. I don't think war is the answer. I don't think missiles are the answers. But I want you people to understand that although we are in fight or flight mode right now, although we are doom scrolling, like scared shitless for our people, when we hear about a member of the Islamic Republic dying and getting killed, we are celebrating. And if you are grieving the loss of these IRGC commanders, I want you to understand that Iranians are licking the tears off anybody who is grieving these people. These people are not our allies. There are innocent Iranians that are being killed as a result of this. But do not think that by supporting the Islamic Republic, that you are now an ally to the Iranian people. I'm seeing idiots like Sean King, like supporting the Islamic Republic now. So please, like, if you want to show solidarity to us, show it to the people, not the Islamic Republic. Thank you. I'm out.
Shaheen,
Mm.
why your car? I mean, my car is often where I'm suddenly like, oh yeah, but like,
I mean, my apartment's a mess. You know what I mean? And I tend to like, I'm in my car a lot. Like, I go from
you're
here to
in
here,
LA.
and
You
it's
live
just
in LA.
you know how it is. So I mean, oftentimes I'm just thinking out loud, and then I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to record this thought. So yeah.
Uh, so as I mentioned going into that one clip about talking about the level of loneliness, um,
Hmm.
there's also something else that I want to center in our conversation tonight, which is the Land of And is a Twitch channel with the sole objective of trying to hold the sacred complexity, that what I like to call the sacred end. And
Hmm.
my fear around everything related to Iran right now.
Hmm.
And I don't know if Iran has actually faced this kind of broad conundrum from the rest of the world before, because when we've seen the deaths of Masa, when we've seen the protests in the streets, everyone's been so clear about like what side they want to be on.
Hmm.
But it feels like for people who might be observing what's happening in Iran right now,
Hmm.
that they might be like, oh shit, who, getting like stuck in their binary of like, whose side am I on? Like, wait,
Yeah.
how do I figure this out? Because like, fuck,
Yeah.
some people are like, fuck Israel, but like,
Right.
oh my god, we want this, but oh my god, it's not citizen led. Help me
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. I think you could be very critical of Israel's policy and like how they go about doing what they do, right? Like whether that's in Palestine or even like in Iran right now. Like I'm certainly critical of how Israel's handling uh some of the operations in Iran. Absolutely. I mean, there's casualties happening. I think a lot of people have this mentality that like an enemy of an enemy is my friend, but that's not often the case. The Islamic Republic, which is the government of Iran. And by the way, like I say that, like I go out of my way to call them the Islamic Republic because a majority of the people in Iran, they don't view them as like legitimate. It's like they view them as like an occupying force. Like they're a very anti-Iranian government, and I feel like that's the complexity. I feel like people do not understand is that like we do not identify with this government. I mean, even the original, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, said, I don't care about Iran. I care about Islam. So a lot of people view this as like an occupied force, and this is not really Iran. The Iranian government, they do not represent our values, our culture, our people, and they really don't. Like they're the antithesis to everything our beautiful culture stands for. Like I said before, like you could be critical of what Israel is doing right now, but I think when your hate for Israel starts to blind you to the point where you are now siding with almost like Islamic Nazis, right? Then you've lost the plot.
Hmm. So the reason why, and there's lots of Iranian voices that I and all of us at Land of Anne will continue to center over coming weeks, months, years, as I tried to do professionally to date. But the reason why I was really intrigued with you is because you're an artist, and I know there's like a fucking amazing underground art scene in Iran.
Hmm.
I know, my understanding at least is that it revolves a lot around film and music and
Yeah.
dance.
Hmm.
And your raised in Connecticut and now live in the
Mhm.
Valley and are taking
Mhm.
Instagram videos of yourself in your car. So you've had a full transition to all of the things American and sort of like of our generation. But it seems like your art is revolving around the a rebellion of sorts, and you're centering the female struggle in Iran.
Mhm.
How and why did you get there?
Yeah, I mean, I was always a big fan of hip hop. And I mean, I mean, like the music and the culture of hip hop. And if you really understand the root of hip hop, it's really like hip hop is a political movement. Like the culture in its very core, it's very political. And I was always moved by, obviously like Tupac, Public Enemy, Tribe Called Quest, Nas, right? And these artists would, like they were really into, like they would always talk about the black struggle, and they would also like bring the black woman up, like what I mean, like they would speak very highly of the black woman, and I thought that was very beautiful. And when I listen to that stuff, sometimes like it's really interesting hearing that perspective, because when I hear black artists talk about their struggles and how they once had like this ancient beautiful kingdom in Africa that was taken by these white colonizers, right? Like I feel like when I heard that, it reminded me of a lot of the stuff like my parents used to teach me, where it's like Iran was this beautiful kingdom, and then it was invaded so many times by these outsiders and burned to the ground. But then we kept rising up, and then something, and then it would get invaded again. This concept of like mental colonization, that like Malcolm X would talk about, like that resonated with me too, as an Iranian, because Iranians' minds, I would always argue, like they have been colonized, right, like mentally. But the controversy now comes is like, because we're so used to talking about Western colonization, Western imperialism, where I say, and that although that a lot of that is true, Iranians have also been colonized by like certain elements of like Islamic ideology. So now like Iranians are so colonized that we're naming our kids after like Muhammad, Ali, Hassan, right? Like these are not Iranian names. So when it comes back to the woman, like I think like Iranian women are like probably go through the most pain, right? Like they go through so much pain and the world does not recognize it. Like I'm sure I don't need to explain to you, like since 1979, like what kinds of things they've been going through, right? And obviously it's not even just the hijab, mandatory hijab laws, right? Like women, like when they get arrested and sentenced to death, right? What ends up happening is there's this belief that if a woman who's if she's not married and she's like not a virgin, like she'll go to hell or something, right? So like so they will actually like rape her before they execute her, which is just so like evil and barbaric. And sometimes I just watch videos. I used to watch videos, these documentaries of like Iranian women talking about their pain in Iran. And it would always like break my heart, like really bad. And sometimes like some of them would even speak with hope, like hey, and like they just want like ordinary lives, right? Like it's not like they're not even like dreaming of having like that BMW and like luxurious apartment. They just want to like have normal lives. They just want to be free. And so I don't know, like I think they're very like beautiful inside and out, and that's why I try to elevate them when I can.
I'm really, I feel in hearing you share that, I want to say thank you to you on behalf of not just Iranian women, of which I can't speak, but like of all women, because there's something that you see about the collective struggle, and it's nuanced depending on culture, religion, government, geography, all of the things. But you seem to get something about why Iranian women, and I often think of like who's the demographic that is going to lead us closest to our collective freedom. And when I think of a handful of demographics, Iranian women are certainly at the very top of it. Because there's the history of what was 50, 60 years ago. We've all seen the
Mhm.
Instagram posts of the women in the short skirts and
Mhm.
then and then the sudden transition to hijab surveillance. But there's this like commitment to rebellion that
Mhm.
feels like it comes from like deep in the bone marrow, deep from the ancestors, that the fuck you that I have seen from Iranian women and girls, which then translated, I believe, to Afghanistan and all of the girls, doing everything they can to just, I really feel like say fuck you to the system. Like
Mhm.
Iranian women are at the tip of the spear for collective
Mhm.
freedom. And you
Mhm.
see that in ways that like men who teach in women's departments at major universities, I don't think have their finger on the pulse of.
I mean, I will say, like in Iran, like what was so beautiful about the women life freedom movement was that it was men marching behind the women. Like it was like a trust that the men had in their women to like, hey, you guys got this, and we're right behind you, right? Like so, like the saying when it's Zan Zindagi Azadi, Mar Mihan Abadi or Abadi. I have an accent, so sometimes I mispronounce things. But Zan Zindagi Azadi means woman life freedom. Mar Mihan Abadi means men, countrymen. Uh, and to be honest with you, I forgot what the last one means. But
Fine, something poetic,
yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah, no, no, it's just like just like it's like on the tip of my tongue. But um, like we're in this like collective struggle together. You know what I mean? Like a lot of Iranian men in Iran like understand. You know?
Are as I think one of the other things that I get intimidated about when I think about how I'm going to show up in my virtual capacity, um, both affirming perspectives and trying to be an ally of what the
Hmm.
women life freedom movement is.
Hmm.
My family lives in the Arab Middle East. They live in Dubai, and we have a lot of Iranian friends. And I have also heard plenty of them say, it's totally fine. Like, hijab's not that big of a deal. It's no different than any other religious based country. It feels like I'm confused about who to support within Iran. Obviously, I'm always looking for the most radical, but it does feel like there is mixed messages coming not just from within Iran, but also from the diaspora. How are you navigating that?
I think there's an effort, right? And I this is a tough one. Like there's an effort by a lot of people, and if you ever go on YouTube, I see this all the time where it's these non-Iranians, and I think their intentions are good, by the way. Like they go on YouTube, they actually travel to Iran and they show everything beautiful about our culture on YouTube. And then they're like, oh, like Iran is not what the media says, blah, blah, blah. It's very beautiful. The people are nice, which, by the way, it is true.
Yeah,
Iran's a beautiful country. The
yeah,
people are amazing. The culture is amazing. I don't know if you ever had Persian food before, but try it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's
yeah,
so good. And like the people are so friendly. Like Iranians, like they love foreigners. You know what I mean? Like they love like when people come to Iran and like they're very hospitable people. So, Iranians really try to go out of their way to present some. So I think Iran, there's also so there's that stuff, right? And then I think like some Iranians who live in the diaspora want to show that side to the world, right? But unfortunately, like no, like there are still women that are being dragged into these like white vans, just like thrown into these vans, and then they have to go to jail, right? And like sometimes like they have to pay a big fine, sometimes they get lashes, right? It's really really messed up. But I do see that like nowadays there are women who, like when I look at Instagram, these Instagram videos, like they're very defiant nowadays. Like they don't give a fuck.
they
You know
don't
what
give a
I
fuck.
mean? Like
But I'm
like
telling
they
you, they're fueling they're lighting a spark in me, and I'm like an OG honey badger myself. Like
Yeah,
it is courage breeds courage everywhere, which is
yeah,
why Iranian women are the ones to follow right now.
yeah,
Shaheen, there's a question in the chat about, did you see the video of the TV station being hacked today, and
yeah.
telling people to go to the streets? The follow-up question was that real? Do you think that was real? It looked real to me, but I
It was
also have
real.
no context.
It was real. And I thought it was pretty funny. Like, I support the people. You know what I mean? Like, so like, go take what's yours. I'm not gonna command them from LA. You know what I mean? That's not my place to do. I'm not gonna tell them to put their lives in danger, but you do what you feel is best to do, you know?
Yeah. So, I think that becomes like the next phase of the conundrum for folks who are like, okay, well, so then if you're anti-Israeli occupation of Gaza, or if you're anti,
Yeah.
and then suddenly there's this tiny window that might have opened up, at least I'm a little bit like, oh my God, fucking take to the streets, like go, go, go. And I also know the real painful danger that exists there for so many people. And then if they are taking to the streets and the IRGC does get entirely dismantled, I have this
Yeah.
quiet secret fear that we're going to be like, thanks, Israel. And I don't want that either. I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. This is like where the anxiety comes in, because none of us know what's going to happen next. None of it, like it's very scary. So I mean, like these last few days since Thursday night, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't like focus on writing music. I couldn't do anything. Like all I've been doing was doom scrolling, looking for updates, like what's about to happen next. And there are people that are afraid that like what these Israeli strikes are going to do is that, well, obviously one is the casualties,
Of course.
right? And like, and you know, like I've been on the phone. I mean, like, yeah, I've reached out to my family members. Sometimes I'm able to do that. Sometimes I'm not, you know, and even though they tell
Shaheen,
me
do
they're,
do you mind giving me or us a little bit of context of who your family that's still in Iran and where they are and how you're in contact with them and what those conversations look and sound like?
sure. I mean, I don't want to give locations, you know, but I
Right.
will say like, um, I just, you know, I mean, like, oh my God, are you okay? And then like sometimes like they try to downplay it because they don't want us to freak out, you know. So like I get a whole range of like, you know, a whole range of responses from my family, and I have friends there too, you know. And so some are like, oh no, don't worry, like they just hit the airport, we're fine. And then like the next day I hear more stuff. I'm like, okay, are you still okay? They're like, oh yeah, you know, they hit that part, like we'll be fine. um when I talk to like my friends there, it's a range of like emotions. So some are fearful, right? Because they don't know if it's their apartment that's going to be hit next, right? They don't know. Um, and then there's some people are hopeful. They're like, is this it?
Hmm.
Is this the end of the Islamic Republic? And you know, they what a lot of Iranians are saying is that, um, is this the moment we are finally, you know, after, you know, obviously we hate that it's come to this, but can this be it? You know?
Are you, and
Yeah,
are you wrestling with that too?
of course. Because like, listen, like I don't want bombs and missiles raining down my motherland. Like I can't advocate for that while I live in the US drinking a Starbucks coffee,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like living comfortably out here. I can't. It's not like but I can't do that in good conscience. But there are people, some people in Iran that support that, and there are some people that don't. And I think that's a conversation that like Iranians who live there should have, you know. And I respect their decisions, you know. On the
Are
other
you
hand, I
sorry?
was just gonna say, you know, on the other hand, when I hear about these like generals getting like these Iranian, not, I'm sorry, when these Islamic Republic generals and chief of staff people getting killed, yeah, I'm cheering. Of course, I'm cheering. You know, these they have killed so many people. One of them, one of the in Persian we say that they turn into kutlet. Kutlet is like a, it's like a Persian food. It's like some, it's a, to be honest with you, I don't know how to explain it in English, but it's like they turn into kebab, right? Like they're like burnt, and we're celebrating it. You know what I mean? We're, but at the same time, it's very bittersweet because there's casualties.
Are you hearing anything, or any of your friends, women who, might have been doing the ritual, which I feel like, I don't know if I'm going to see this in my lifetime, but at some point, like, there's just going to be spectacular statues of women cutting their hair in public. And um, so, again, trying to get as close as I can to the
Hmm.
voices of the women on the streets or in Iran,
Hmm.
recognizing that some of them, understandably, might be comfortably tucked in their trauma response of, like, it's over there, it's still over there, it's not here.
Hmm.
Um, but are you hearing anything from the women? Are you hearing anything from the women?
I think right now this is still so fresh. You know what I mean? It's like this one person I was talking to, she was packing her bags. She's like, I'm trying to pack my whole life into this suitcase, and I might not see my apartment ever again. And when Donald Trump tweeted, "Everyone evacuate Tehran now," it like caused massive panic, right? So um, there are some people that I've also heard them say, as much as they despise the Islamic Republic and that government and what they represent and what they've done to us, right now, you know what I mean? Like it's they don't support the strike, like the missiles. So like they're just trying to get to safety at the moment.
That must
But there
be,
are some, but you know, like I have heard from some that they're like, again, oh my God, like we're about to do this, you
yeah,
know?
let's go. Um,
Yeah, it's a wide range of time. Yeah.
so do you think that, if this is such an unfair question to ask, because I know your answer, but I also like want to know what you think might also happen, is
Hmm.
if you think that the infrastructure of the IRGC, both in personnel and actual technical infrastructure, gets
Hmm.
eliminated,
Hmm.
are the Iranian people then going to have their own comeuppance with each other and themselves about how to move forward?
Like you're asking if there's going to be a divide.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that's happening here in the States. It's like, political parties or not, Trump or
Yeah.
not, like, our
Hmm.
work is with each other in our zip codes, coming back to our common ground.
Hmm. That's very unpredictable. You know, like, I don't know. I would like to hope that initially there will be like a massive unity, and they're
Right.
like, okay, our time is now. Let's go. One issue with the whole free Iran movement since the very beginning is we have kind of struggled to rally behind one opposition figure, because if you're an opposition figure in Iran, what's going to happen to you? You're going to get killed. So in the West, so a lot of them, well, if there is an opposition figure, they have to operate out here in the West, right? There is one person, right? Some people love him, some aren't really too sure about him, and that's the Shah's son. Reza Pahlavi. Are you familiar with who that is?
I'm not well versed in it, but I do know of him.
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of people believe that he's gonna be the guy that takes the country back, kind of like a Lion King Simba story. Like when he was young, he was exiled, but now he's gonna like come back and overthrow Scar, right? Like a lot of people kind of have that like story in their head.
That is
Whether
such a good
that,
analogy. We're all tracking
yeah,
very clearly.
yeah, and like I would. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen. I mean, personally, say, it's not my place to say, yeah, that guy should be the next leader. But at the same time, I don't know who else, and I'm okay with it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. I think his father and his grandfather were very respectable people. I think they've done a lot of great things for the country. I mean, you can disagree with some of the things, some of their approaches, but they've advanced Iran so much
Sorry, where does he
that's
live?
he's based in the DC area.
Hmm, got it. And then talk about the role that artists like yourself and Tamaj play. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly.
Too much, too much.
Tamaj, who was arrested. How the hell did he get out?
They After a couple of years in jail and brutal torture, they let him out under certain conditions. So I don't know exactly like the terms of it. I know he's been kind of he understandably he's more restrained than he used to be with what he used to say, and I can understand why, because every time he is very open against the regime, they kidnap him. A bunch of people come out of nowhere, they kidnap him, they like, then they send him back to jail for a long time. um but as for like the artists, to your question about that, I would just say, like, speak your heart out, because this is our responsibility now as privileged artists in the diaspora to represent, like, use your social media platforms, talk about it. And yeah, not even just the artists. Like, if you're an influencer, like, I've seen Iranian influencers who are like, they kind of like, their whole thing is kind of like makeup and lifestyle and stuff, and like they haven't really talked about what's going on in Iran, and I think that's bizarre. Use your platform. Like,
Yeah,
you have the especially like these Iranian influencers who have a big audience that aren't even like Iranian, right? Like, you are the perfect people to talk, what I mean, like, to
that's right.
raise awareness. I mean, like, see, like, my thing is, like, sometimes, like, a majority of people who follow me are Iranian, so sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, right?
Mm.
But if you're an Iranian who built their following off non-Iranian things, speak out.
Tell me about, did your parents talk to you in depth about Iran, your motherland, your ancestors? And I also have been meaning to
Hmm.
ask you, and I was actually going to start the conversation um,
Hmm.
asking you about your relationship with, I'm assuming you're a Zoroastrian based on
Uh,
the
okay.
necklaces that you're wearing.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
So,
accurate?
so uh, personally, like, I am not of any religion. Um, I this necklace, like, yeah, it has like the fabric. It's called the Farva hat, right? And you can see it right here too. And it's like,
Yeah, you're
it's
like
really,
really decked out in it. I was like, okay, we're
yeah.
definitely gonna have to talk about
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny if you look at my hat too. Like,
that.
he's
Okay,
holding like
okay,
he's holding that microphone. You see that's kind of. But
that's
yeah,
cool.
but so basically, it's really a symbol. A lot of Iranians, like, who aren't even Zoroastrian, including myself, like, we wear it as a symbol of pride. This is like, we're proud of our heritage because this is like 3,500 years old. This If you ever go to Persepolis, like those ancient ruins, like, you will see this image like carved into those stones. So to me, it's more of just like, I wear it because I'm so in love with my culture and my
Mm,
history. But that being said, Zoroastrianism is the original Persian religion. It's the ancient Iranian religion,
yep.
and good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That obviously, like, that resonates with me.
Yeah, I know. I can get, you and I could probably riff and get a little bit dangerous on how infuriated I am with all the Abrahamic religions, frankly, um, particularly when we already had the recipe, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, long before then. Um, but I have at times appropriated some of the Zoroastrian swag just because I'm so into it. Um,
No, we love that.
but So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but if for the Americans who do listen to your music, well, first off, like, fucking thank you for using the language, for doing the thing. I'm gonna also express some significant gratitude to your parents, because there's some prism that they made you look through, and there's some set of responsibilities that, whether or not they intended to or not, they built a human that was probably painstakingly still is curious. And the curiosity led you to understand and to look and to see and to bear witness to. So thank you to them. But as your popularity in America, my lips to goddess's ears, increases, what is it that you want Americans who listen to your music, who aren't from Iran, how do you want them to show up for Iranian women?
Well, I find it fascinating because like I'm progressive, yeah, and if you couldn't tell, like I'm very like anti Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like I believe in like 99% of the progressive causes we do here in the U.S. But I also find it weird that when it comes to Iran, people are silent. And I just ask you to show that same consistency because I think there's an issue, right? And I think the reason why that happens, the reason why people are silent on Iran, in my opinion, right, is that when it comes to showing solidarity in progressive circles, I feel like it has to like follow certain rules. So and this is why I was in that video, I was kind of angry, right? Because it's like, where were you back then? Now all of a sudden you care. So I think when it comes to Islam, we there's so much Islamophobia that happens in this country that we kind of want to like become allies to the Muslim community. But by doing that too much, sometimes what ends up happening is we do not want to call out bad things that some Muslims do that go against everything you believe in, by the way. Right. Like, so for example, like in Iran, you could be executed for being gay. Like if they could say that they caught you like doing sodomy and they will kill you. I know someone that had to flee the country because he was sentenced to death because he was gay. Uh, and it's weird that progressives don't want to talk about that because it's the Muslims in this case that are doing the oppressing. So they want to stay quiet on that because they're afraid to like, oh, wait, but if I say that, that's Islamophobic. Maybe this is just how Persian culture is. But it's like this weird notion of cultural relativism is why I think people are so silent on Iran. So I just ask you to like, put all that bullshit aside. People are dying, like people are being oppressed because of an ideology that's very conservative and backwards. And please, like, talk to an Iranian. Ask us how we feel. Like, show up to our women life freedom protests. I mean, which to be fair, they haven't really happened in a while.
Well,
But
they're coming back, no doubt.
yeah, but I think a lot of crazy things are about to happen.
I
So
think so too. I think so too. I mean, I appreciate you framing it that way. Progressives, again, as you pointed out, are so interested in being right and not interested in putting the uncomfortable contradiction in the middle of the table. Um,
mhm,
I think, Shaheen, I'm nervous that be if there is a movement in the direction that you and I would be so excited about, it's going to
mhm,
complicate people saying the things
yep,
even more, because then you have Israel who can take as much credit as they want for this just exact moment in time. Now, like, there's nothing but everyone adding fuel to the fire over generations. But this is where, like, where I publicly am just like, fuck the Abrahamic religions. I am ethnically Jewish. I celebrate
Mhm.
Shabbat on Friday nights when I feel like it.
Mhm.
My kids may or may not be bat and bar mitzvahed, but like my fury toward Christian nationalism, Islamic
Mhm.
extremism, settlerism, Jewish settlerism, they are to blame for all of that. And of all of this, and I do believe it is on me to bring my Jewish community together here in the States, like
Mhm.
Jewish American women who have had the same life experience. I don't believe I am on the same page as most of them in the United States as it applies to Gaza and Israel.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and there's not a lot of conversation happening. I lost one of my bestest friends in the entire world over this.
Mhm.
Um, bestest friends in the entire world over this.
It's
I
a
won't
very it's
I
a
won't move
very
on the
sensitive
subject.
topic. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's also like not, to your point. Like just call it what it is. Like we are never in the business of killing babies. Period. Full fucking stop. I do not care what God, what government, what ethnicity, what your zip code is. And um and it's just going to get even more and more tangled. My wish is that as Jews continue to like call in other Jews, right? Like the Rabbis for Ceasefire movement that started on October 8th is like manna from heaven, right?
Mhm.
I wish I saw more
Mhm.
voices from the Islamic community calling out Islamicism.
And they don't. And like that's the truth. They don't. Like because during the women life freedom movement, I I don't remember seeing like a Middle Eastern influencer of any kind say anything. Say anything. And if anything, they were actually complaining because they're like, "Wait, why are these women like burning their hijabs? That's Islamophobic."
Right.
Right? So to me, like that that's really started to kind of like open my eyes as to what the problem is. Um and I even remember like in UCLA, I got invited to perform for like one of the protests there, and there was this weird white dude who was holding a sign that said, "Massa Amini died of natural causes," and then he kept trying to disrupt the protest by saying, "You guys are imperialists. You guys are imperialists. You guys are imperialists," and I think it's weird because it's like this obsession that a lot of leftists have with this concept of Western imperialism. Like it blinds them to the point where like they all of a sudden like they look at like the Islamic Republic, they look at North Korea, and they're like, yeah, these are the good guys. Um, it's just absolutely wild.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say some other thoughts that I have yet. Uh, but I will die on the mountain for people to be in relationship with the story that they have, with the God that they have, to dress, to look, to be the way that they want. But I question every single one of those Abrahamic religions and
Good for
how
you.
it is a fundamental roadblock to our collective freedom. I don't see it.
I agree.
It doesn't
I
math.
agree.
It does not math. And like, yes, I can pick up all of the love language that exists. I can absolutely pick up the equality language that exists, but that's what it's done here, what it's done in Brazil, what it's doing in the Philippines, what it's done in Iran, what it's doing in the other MENA countries, what it's doing on the east coast of Africa. I mean, this is like Boko Haram might as well be IRGC.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's devastating.
I mean, I think even here in the States, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not anywhere as bad as like what Iran is going through, but there is a growing number of people out here in the US that want the US to be a Christian version of what Iran is going through right now. Like they want like I'm hearing like I'm looking at conversations online, I'm looking at these like conservative Christian influencers and they're like they want men and they want boys and girls to be in separate schools. Uh, like they want you know what I mean? Like they want women to not have jobs and just stay home. And then they have that whole like very old school mentality. And I think it's like I don't know. Like, it's actually it's very fucking scary to be honest with you.
I think so too. I think so too. Somebody dropped in the comments that they want the rapture, and it's so disturbing. Like I'm not particularly well versed in this idea of the rapture, like the coming of another Messiah and I know that that is like fundamental to all of the Abrahamic religions. I happen to believe that like uh, as a Quaker, also as I identified as a Jew 4 minutes ago, like all of those qualities already exist in our own humanity and are like right below
Hmm.
our chest bone. Like that person, those ideas, that is already here. We just have to like get out of
Hmm.
our own way to do that.
Hmm.
Um, but it is so disturbing. Everything we had a guest on yesterday, Cynthia Miller Idris, who is an expert on nationalism and the rise of extremism, and specifically of this new definition of misogyny, which is putting into practice these very oppressive um, policies and behaviors toward women, which is just what happened to Iran 50, 60 years
Yeah.
ago. I forget exactly what the exact time frame was.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to gender. It all comes down to controlling women. And my
Mm.
hypothesis, Shaheen, is that until we help everybody free themselves or affirm their own self-worth, they are going to continue to put their own self-hatred on the backs of somebody else.
Hmm. That's fair.
And James Baldwin, who I was watching, it sounds like you're a big documentary fan, so am I. Don't get me started. I have like a full
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but when I was right after I had my second child, I was on maternity leave and I was like cranking through these documentaries. And the documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, about James Baldwin's book came on. And there was a quote that set me off onto my life course of where I am right now, which is, and I'm going to kind of butcher the quote, but I'm going to come close enough that you'll get the gist, which is, as soon as white folks stop hating themselves, there won't be a race issue in the country. It was like as soon as white people don't have to take their hatred for themselves and put it on the backs of other marginalized communities, there won't be a race
Do you
issue.
believe? Do you believe that's what it is? Like, do you believe that the reason
Well, I
why,
think
like,
it's like 10 million different reasons, but when I think about religious nationalism breaking
hmm,
most of the countries around the world, it's because I believe at the heart of it is men, as we see now in this country, are in a crisis. They've never been lonelier, they've never been more confused, they've never felt
yeah,
more inept. And that
yeah.
instead of owning that, they are putting the bullseye on the backs of women.
I mean, that's a whole separate conversation, a whole separate can of worms. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I can let me tell you something. Like, I know how this starts. I mean, in the modern day, at least, like, because like I've seen some friends go down this rabbit hole, and you have to like kind of fish them out of it. But it's sort of like what ends up happening is that they haven't really had like sometimes like they haven't had the best luck with women, right? Like they don't maybe they don't have the right confidence or whatever, and they're very lonely and frustrated. They're like, why me? Like, why am I going through this? What am I doing wrong? So they go
Right?
on the
Why not
internet.
me? Right.
Right. And I mean, and listen, by the way, that's very real. You know what I mean? Like that's sad. That is sad. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to put that down. Like even me in high school, I was a shy motherfucker. But what happened what they go on YouTube and whatever, and they find all the wrong people to give them the answers. Uh and I won't name names, but like they think that like they start they go down the whole like red pill thing. I'm sure you know about red pill and like all these like weird movements. And what these ideologies do is that instead of teaching you how to become a better person and to become more self-confident and to love yourself,
Yes.
it kind of just teaches you how to hate women. It teaches you why you should hate women, right? And it's not healthy. Like, so instead of like men being like, okay, like how can I? Why am I so like? Why am I so harsh on myself, right? Why do I
Or
speak so
why am
negatively about me?
or why is my self-worth wrapped up in what she thinks about me or anybody else? I mean, that's
Right, right. Right. So, but instead, like they'll go be like, oh, the average woman will not go out with you if you're under 6 feet tall, and they only want a guy that makes $256,000 a year, and you know what I mean? Like they'll put out like all these like shallow things about women, and you're like, wait, like are women really like this? Are women really this shallow? And like you might not consciously realize that like you're being like told to hate women, but eventually, like it'll manifest it into your behaviors and into your beliefs.
I learned yesterday too that I've sort of been like broadly anti video games. My background is in education, early childhood education. I'm the mom of two kids who are like constantly like, can we play video games? Of which like I
Mm.
also will die on that mountain, and they're not getting any of it until they're 16. But that this
Okay.
expert, I know, this expert was saying that it's not the violent video games that are actually making men violent. It's the stories within the video games that are making them misogynistic, and that is what is making them violent. So, like, the women being damsels in distress, the women being spies not to be able to be trusted. The women are constantly positioned as the other. And to me, you know, yeah, I'm not going to touch hijab right now. But I do just feel like at the core of all of this is the suppression of women, which is why in studying your art,
Hmm.
it feels a little earth-shattering to me.
Really? No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I don't know if I fully agree with like your take on the damsel in distress and like these characters, right? Like I get it, and I can see where you come from for sure. I know, but but at the same time, like I think they're and by the way, like these Hollywood and whatever, like they are trying to do better, right? Like like in the Marvel movies, like you have Black Widow, right? She's a total gangster. Like she's awesome. You know what I mean? Like you got Jessica Jones, you got Wonder Woman, who I think are very like cool representations for women to have. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
I'm not that well versed, but like I
Yeah,
trust you.
yeah, yeah.
Marvel's thrown down, and I've been grateful to it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and sometimes I will say they go a little overboard, but that's a different conversation.
Whatever.
Um,
You just
yeah,
like
yeah,
have
yeah,
your finger on the pulse of like something different that feels God, like
yeah.
if I could just make all your music cool to the Andrew Tate followers, I feel like the world would be a smidge safer than it is.
I appreciate that. I will say this, like with the Andrew Tate stuff and the red pill stuff, like I always try to present myself in a way where I'm not going to war with these guys. Like I'm actually like willing to sit there and talk to these guys and like being like, yo, I hear you. I hear your point when you talk about X, Y, and Z. Let me tell you why I feel like what you're saying isn't completely accurate, right? And when I feel like when you just let them be heard, they're more open to hearing what you have to say. Instead
Yeah.
of like you pointing at them, be like, yo, fuck you, you're a misogynist. You know what I mean? Like that's not really that's if anything, like when you do that, they're gonna rally around the flag faster.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. I mean, I think that's where the left has totally gotten it wrong. And I
Yeah.
think and I'm scared that the left is going to take those behaviors into the outcome of whatever unfolds with Iran in the same way,
Yeah.
where
I
it's
I
like
know.
black and white, it's mutually exclusive, it's binary, it's like no, it's not. It's all a whole fuck ton of ends, and like we can navigate this together and pull from our history what we went to, memorialize it, make sure we're carving in stones the lessons that we've learned through this
Hmm.
process. And I'm obviously desperate to make sure that we're lifting up more
You
female voices.
like what I'm scared of is let's say hypothetically like within the next few days or weeks or months, like Iran is liberated, Reza Pahlavi comes back, and like Iranians have reclaimed their country. And now all of a sudden, there are gonna be some like it's not gonna be that clean, and there are
Mm,
gonna be some like things, and all of a sudden these white leftists are going to be like, oh my God, like this is an occupied country that Israel and America planted. You know what I mean? And like, let's say, for example, like the king comes back or Reza Pahlavi comes back. And let's say, like, usually when a regime change happens, like there's like executions and stuff like that, of like everyone who's in the old regime. And let's say all of a sudden, like you start killing like all the old like let's say like you kill all the old mullahs and all that stuff, and all of a sudden you're gonna see a bunch of like white leftists being like, oh my God, they're killing there's a Muslim genocide going in Iran, what the fuck is going on, like, and I'm like, oh really, you're paying attention now, like while regular Iranian people were being murdered every single day by these like barbaric baboon mullahs, and now you care because then now the people who are dying are within that oppressed category that you cling on to.
yeah.
Like I'm actually like really terrified of that because
It
we're like I said, we're now in a world where people think Khamenei is a good guy. It's weird.
Okay, I admittedly I haven't seen that yet. That has not crossed the my algorithm has not fed me that content. But it is
I'll share it with
why
you. Yeah.
oh, please don't. But I will say, like, I that is why lifting up voices like yours is so fucking critical because it's like everybody hold the line. Just hold the line. We can do this. It's not going to be pretty. Just everyone take a deep breath, take a beat. Diaspora opinions, contradicting diaspora opinions, internal
Hmm.
opinions. Yes, men march behind women in Iran. Yes, we have a lot of prisoners of war navigating that. What are we going to do with the old IRGC? How are we going to make sure that there's a safe place for people who have a deep relationship with Islam if things do turn in the way that we want? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, can't we just do like Zoroastrianism like on all the billboards?
Hmm.
But I really do think like this idea of not getting sucked into the binary and like the
Hmm.
left activists are like professionals at it,
Hmm.
that it's going to be like, no, it's like an either or. You
Yeah.
mentioned somebody in your video who like I actually don't want to talk about because I just don't really have the stamina for it, and I think your perspectives are so much more interesting than what he's doing right now. I happen to have a personal relationship with him, and definitely stood shoulder to shoulder with him for so many years during the first Trump administration. But I do see it as a lack of curiosity, which is what the land of and is like, just be curious, like only ask questions, don't make statements.
Yeah.
And I think there's some real danger in that, and our people
I I mean, I used to
portraying.
have a lot of respect for that guy. I really back in the day, like because he was
We're
a
talking
big
about Sean
advocate.
King. We're talking about Sean King. We're talking about Sean King.
Okay, yeah, fuck Sean King. But yeah, I mean no, like in all seriousness, like 10 years ago, like I had a lot of respect for him because I agreed with him on almost like every issue. I think, but to me, once you side with my people's oppressor, that's the red line. I don't fuck with you no more. And I feel like his and listen, I understand like when you look at videos of these children dying in Gaza, like that could fuck you up emotionally, understandably so. That's very traumatic. Like human beings are not wired to see shit like that. You know what I mean? But you should not let that blind you so much where now all of a sudden you are siding with Ayatollah Khamenei. Um, I don't know if he's aware of what kinds of things they do to people in Iran, or if he's at
Dude,
this
he
point,
just did like a victory lap in Doha. Like there's layers on layers on layers going on there.
yeah, I don't know if he's really if he's just a grifter or if he really believes in this shit. I don't know. Um,
I'm
I
scared it's a
thought,
race of who gets to someone first, which is why like lifting up your voices, the right voices are so
yeah,
critical. I
yeah,
just feel like it's like same thing that happened on October 7th, or you know, it was more like October 9th. It was like, how was your algorithm adjusting? And then what
mm,
did you continue to watch? And everyone just resumed, like, assumed their
yeah.
positions from that point forward.
So
And
like this is
everyone
one of
thinks
those,
their
yeah,
algorithm is like neutral and general and broad, and that they,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
That's
it's
true.
not.
I fucking hate these algorithms. Yeah, you know, even the whole October 7th thing, like, you know, I'll be real with you. Like, I don't know too much about Israel and Gaza and Palestine. I don't know too much. I'm not an expert on it. That's why I refrain from talking about it. But what, and I've seen this shit on both sides, and I think it's disgusting. Where as October 7th was happening, I see leftists waving the Palestinian flag, and I thought that was weird. On that day, like, I thought that was just gross. On the other side, when I saw like Palestine getting bombed and I saw people cheering that, I thought that was disgusting too. And I feel like people always they have a I think the downfall of humanity will be because humans can't really comprehend that like two things can be true at once, right?
I mean, I do have one more question, and I should just wrap on that note. But I'm going to
Okay.
ask you the next question. But yes, that
Okay.
to me, I believe, is like our holy grail. And it's like our life's work for folks like you and I who might kind of
Hmm.
sort of get it and like, but
Hmm.
also don't, you know, I'm not like when my husband and I disagree on something, there is no complexity there. I am right. You know, like it is all a work in progress constantly. But I appreciate you saying that. And that is why we have tried to create a space like that here, where somebody can say that and all of us shake our heads in agreement. And we can also talk about all the sides of it.
Yeah.
All right, my final question for you, Shaheen, is and we will in clipping and show notes and stuff like that. We'll make sure we provide handles for all of your work so that people can continue to follow it. But are you, as somebody who's so vocal and actively creating art that is challenging these very like top down, sexist, dangerous, and violent contraptions that are on top of women, are you at all afraid personally?
Af- Afraid of.
I mean, Iran hasn't ever, there's plenty of entities in the world who would prefer to silence your voice, even if you're in the valley.
Oh, am I afraid for my life? Not yet, but I have taken precautions, you know. But no, to be honest with you, no, not really. I mean, like this is what I'm. I mean, I'm not too religious, you know, as you can tell, but I do believe that like God or the universe has whatever He has in mind for me. You know, it's already set in stone. You know, so I just follow my path and live my truth. And obviously, I take precautions, make sure my family stays out of it. You know what I mean? Shit like that. But I can't say I'm afraid. No, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, whatever it is that you put onto the world will live long beyond you anyway. So thank you so much for
Yeah. Yeah.
all of that work. And we'll have you back on when you get
Thank you
marching
so
orders
much.
from the streets of Tehran. Like there's a tremendous amount of people who are ready and very, very willing to respond to it. I feel hopeless, and the best that I can do is have somebody center somebody's voice like yours. So thank you so much for living that purpose.
And thank you for no, like I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for having me on and allowing me to kind of like try my best to speak on behalf of the Iranian people.
Blessings, Shaheen. See you soon. No, I don't. Actually, yeah, Shaheen, can you just hang out for one quick second? I do want to say something to you. Okay, everybody, thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this obviously very quickly evolving um, Iranian sitch. And as I stare at the news and what is and isn't happening, and where carriers are going into are mobilizing toward the Persian Peninsula, I feel confused, but I know that the only people who I am focused on are the people on the streets. And if folks like Shaheen have to be the middle people between them and us for now, I am just so grateful to have access to that and ultimately provide that to you all. Thank you all so much, and see you later.